Good morning and a very sunny welcome to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. It's been a busy week with the red carpet rolled out for French President Emmanuel Macron. But is the one-in, one-out migrant deal already doomed to fail as more than 1,200 small boat migrants have crossed the Channel since it was signed? Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander will join me. I'll be asking her about that deal and why the economy appears to be shrinking on Labour's watch. I'll also be speaking to Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp. Do the Tories have a credible plan for stopping the boats beyond Rwanda? And how would they get the welfare system under control? Sir David Davis, the former Brexit Secretary, will also be on the show. What does he make of President Macron's claim that the British people were sold a lie with Brexit? And as President Trump is set to make a major announcement concerning Russia tomorrow, I'm going to be getting the latest from Ukrainian MP Oleksiy Goncharenko. It's another busy show to come, so do not even think of going anywhere. Right, let's get stuck into the Sunday newspapers with Rob Burley, the author and journalist. Lovely to see you, Rob. Welcome to GB News.
Thank you.
Right, we're going to share a list because we've only got one, which is probably my fault. So let's talk about migrants, the migrant deal. Let's be honest, the Sunday papers haven't been overwhelmingly supportive of this Macron and Starmer-inspired fudge. And we've now got the Home Secretary talking about ID cards for migrants.
Yeah, there's a story in The Sun which is about the idea that the way to sort of actually keep tabs on what's going on with people who are in the economy here, who are illegal asylum seekers. If we have ID cards, then we'll know what they're doing. We know where they're working. It would be required that a check would happen. So that's the argument. So it's not an argument for ID cards for all of us. But
maybe we should have ID cards for all of us.
Well, sure. Yeah, there's a logic to that. I don't personally mind that idea, but this is a notion which, again, in principle, I don't think it's a problem that it would just be for them. The question is, would it make any difference? Is the question to me. Why are employers not checking now people's status and whether they have the right paperwork anyway?
Because they drop their paperwork overboard when they get on the dinghies and things? Well,
they shouldn't be employing them if they can't see some evidence of... In other words, it's on the employer to actually do that. But perhaps what would happen would be that if it's well known that asylum seekers who are here have these ID cards, then it would be impossible for those employers to get away with not doing the check because everybody knows that they've got them, whereas now it's not something that people necessarily think about very much.
The other interesting story is in the Mail on Sunday. Right, let's just get to it, because the headline is... You're just going to dispute some of the figures in here, but the headline is punchy, let's be perfectly honest. Boat migrants' crazy golf trips on you, OK? So this is a suggestion that, for instance, Kent County Council, which is now reform-run, so it was run by the Conservatives for years, it's been paying £279 on circus trips for migrant children. There's a Virgin Atlantic bill there for nearly £2,000. Crazy golf, £55.50 has been spent on that. £102 has been spent at Fortnum and Mason. Fast food bill, £118,000. Amazon, £162,000. And the suggestion from Reform is that this has all been spent on asylum seekers who have come across the Channel.
Well, so there's all these numbers, and then it says all paid from migrant-related budgets, which is a bit of an odd. It doesn't necessarily mean the money. I mean, I don't really think... Obviously, there's a moment at which you think, why can't County Council spending £102 at Fortnum and Masons anyway?
Yes, true.
But I don't know. But maybe that was something that was a gift for someone who was leaving or something. I don't know.
OK.
But I don't think... I mean, do you know what? I'm going to put my neck on it. I don't really mind if children who are here, brought here by their parents, have no choice in it. If they're spending £55 on crazy golf, I think we can live with that. I think children should not be punished for the actions of their parents.
Let me give you a counter-narrative, because this morning Zia Youssef, the Reform Party chairman, has written a piece to go with this expose in the Mail on Sunday. So I asked him this morning, how do you definitely know the money has been spent on asylum seekers? He responded, morning, all booked to the asylum budget, often the children budget that includes men aged up to 25, or claiming to be. So this is the other problem, right? Migrants coming across, literally with full beards, saying they're 16 when they're obviously much, much older, and then money being spent on them to have fast food and trips to crazy golf.
This seems to suggest that it's up to the age of 25, I guess, count as youths in some way. I mean, that's an issue, or that should be talked about. It's problematic because it doesn't feel like you should be going to crazy golf if you're 25. But what I'm saying is that actually the language is quite careful to say the asylum-related budget, to not say necessarily it's all spent on asylum seekers.
But then what do you think the perception is of taxpayers? They're already paying for hotels.
Well, there's no wonder that's perception if this is what they're...
I know, but they're already paying for hotels. The budget keeps on going up. We've got this migrant deal that no one really has faith in. And then stuff like this. I mean, it's a terrible look for Labour.
Sure, but I just think it's... Of course, this is... we all know this is going with the grain of the kind of... the fact that people are angry about it. And that's why it's a story on the front page or given a big spread. But it's not necessarily makes the story accurate, or it may give an impression that's slightly distorted. Just reading what it says, it doesn't quite nail it in the way you think it might.
Okay.
But anyway, but obviously there is a thing going on here, which is about people feeling about how they do about the small boats. You know, but whether this is actually particularly important in that would be another question.
I think it plays into that narrative. We had that CSJ, the Centre for Social Justice report in the week saying you're better off on benefits than you are in full-time work. We now see migrants coming here illegally and being given free staff.
Children.
If you're a working man or woman with a family on minimum wage, you're looking at this all and going, why the hell have I bothered?
Sure, but
I'd be better off going to Calais and arriving by dinghy.
But well, that's not true. But what are we saying should happen to the children involved, for example? Are we saying it's wrong to spend money on them being occupied in some way, just not sitting around at a hotel?
If their parents aren't legitimately seeking asylum, then they should be sent back to the country they came from.
Well, we know that that's not as simple as it might.
Sure.
So that's the big question, is how that's going to be resolved. Which,
Fair enough. Let's move on to another story, which is in The Observer. Now, I chose The Observer because I just think it's interesting that even a Labour-friendly paper would be this negative about our economic outlook under Rachel Reeves as Chancellor. It says, UK PLC in a fix, pointing to wobbly growth, well, that's one way of putting it, troubled trade and rising debt. I mean, what do you make of the economic picture currently under Labour and Rachel Reeves' own position?
I feel like the moment, the sort of, I guess politically the principal moment of that went badly for them was the winter fuel payments, OK? But the thing for me, the more significant moment for me was when that first budget, everything was about economic growth.
Yeah.
And she stood up and she said, she led up to the forecast, and the forecasts were terrible, right, for economic growth. That was the first sign. And then the next thing was that there was a tax on national insurance for employers for taking people on. Yeah. And then within days, we have the effects that's going to have on retail and jobs. It's like, it just seems like absolutely the opposite thing you do if you're going to foster growth. And I was thinking about Gordon Brown. Imagine if Gordon Brown had been the Chancellor then. Whatever the substance of it, it would have felt like something different was going on than what happened with Rachel Reeves. He'd be talking about this initiative and that initiative, and it would just have gripped it and felt like we know growth is the thing. And since then, it's just been, growth is just a distant dream now.
No, I know. And also, what's ironic is that Rachel Reeves, when in opposition, described Rishi Sunak's bid to introduce an NI increase for employers as a jobs tax in 2021.
Well, she wasn't wrong. I mean,
which she also said back when the economy shrunk by 0.1%, which is what's happened last week, according to the OBR and the ONS. She said, we must have an emergency budget to respond to this. Now in power, is she going to have an emergency budget?
No, but I mean, opposition say all sorts of stupid things, as I'm sure we'll find out later with Chris Philp. But, it happens. But I do think, I wonder whether really ultimately they can get beyond this with Rachel Reeves as the Chancellor.
Well, what happens if she goes? Then Starmer's totally compromised, right?
Well, but how do you draw the line and move on and say we have to redraw this? We're doing it. Sometimes.
Well, he's having a summer refresh.
Well, indeed. Well,
which, by the way, doesn't mean Lord Ali spending some money on new linen clothes. It apparently means going for an away day at Chequers.
It does.
But they've had about, I think, 7 resets since they started.
Yeah, I mean, they briefed yesterday. Don't call it a reset.
Yeah, well, what do you want us to call it?
I don't know, it is a reset, but theoretically, but and it's not going to come to fruition until September, apparently, right? So there might be a reshuffle. They certainly need that. I think they need someone. I mean, obviously, she was very upset when she was in the Commons in the last couple of weeks, and that was really, really sad. I thought it was really sad. I really felt for her, but I just don't. Something tells me until that changes that it's going to be hard to have a different conversation.
Yeah. Also, I think if he fires her, he kind of fires himself. Well, you don't last long if you fire a Chancellor.
But then do you carry on in a situation that just doesn't have any opportunity for sort of change? So,
who would be a better Chancellor?
Well, I mean, there are some people I think that might be, qualified. There are some people like West Streeting and like Yvette Cooper that you think about immediately. Yeah. I just think I just don't know how you turn the page while it's as it is, because it feels just bound up in a negative sort of loop.
A doom loop.
Yeah.
I wrote a story on Saturday suggesting that there were rumours circulating in Westminster, which, by the way, they are, that he could call an early election next year.
No.
I know it sounds kamikaze, but this is the theory behind it. The Conservatives will be completely destroyed because they have not recovered from 14 years of failure. Reform aren't ready. They haven't got any MPs. And the ones they do have, I mean, one of them's being investigated and has resigned the whip.
Yeah.
That then they would eviscerate the Tories and it would be a straight two-horse race between responsible, sensible Labour and, quotes, far-right Farage.
I don't see that. I think the only thing that they've got, is when you think now, it's still 4 years to go until the election. But Camilla, are we just going to be in a situation where they can't change the conversation and we're just in this 4 year long waiting process for the inevitable, collapse of the... So
4 more years of 7 resets a year. We could get into many, many resets.
But they need to. That's why they need to. They need to sort it out.
They do need to sort it out, whether they can or not. God only knows.
Sure.
Now, one Labourite who is performing pretty well is Peter Mandelson in America.
Yeah, who's surprised? Really, who's surprised that he's just consummate diplomat, consummate sort of schmoozer? Yeah,
he's getting on quite well with Trump, and he's suggested, and I quote from the Sunday Times, that Farage has peaked too early. Do we agree with that, Rob?
Well, that's what I was saying about the number of years there's going to be until a definite general election, is that it's possible that the bandwagon just gets mired in time and boredom, and we've all heard it and we're all a bit bored with the idea and something changes. That's possible. So, but if there was an election now, you feel like Nigel Farage would clean up. But...
Yeah, I totally agree, because that's why I think the kamikaze, let's have an early election plan. And also, he will have discussed that with Emmanuel Macron. Politico was reporting in the week that Macron is considering a snap election in France, even though the snap election that he held last summer was a complete and utter disaster. It's like men who are in office and not in power clinging on to it. Yeah. But... Mandelson basically saying, he's popular now. Can he go the distance? Not least with the controversies that have formed around reform. Zia Youssef being in and then out and then back in. Obviously, the furore over Rupert Lowe. Now this James Murdoch thing, and maybe it's all too much too soon. Let's be honest; they would not be prepared if there was an election next year. Not another one.
And I think they'll probably come out in the wash after the election when you have just so many new MPs that are reform. And at this rate, was it a third? We'd have to go for some reason or other.
Yes. Well, also they need to poach more Tories. They've got David Jones across, haven't they? And they got Jake Berry last week. I've got to be honest, I have to look him up. David Jones.
Yeah, I have to look him
up. He's big in Brexit.
OK, but your man Jake Berry. That was I thought. Well, yes, that seems to be
former Tory chairman.
That was a big
it's pretty
deal.
Significant.
I wonder if there's more to come. Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything. Although I think that Suella Braverman is on defection watch, and I would imagine that they're trying to tap up Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Yeah.
But the latter being a true blue Tory, I'm not sure whether he'd be enticed. But obviously he knows Farage well from this channel. Very briefly, let's talk about royal reconciliations. Oh, yes. The Mail on Sunday have got some extraordinary pap photography of Tobin Andre, who is the King's communications chief, having a conversation with the Sussex's communications chief, who has flown in from Montecito.
Right.
Do we think they should reconcile?
I do. I mean, generally speaking, I think as long as you're alive and you're in the family, unless it's just some really horrendous thing you can't get over, try. It reflects well on the King for him to appear magnanimous, because I think the public perception over here is that Harry and Meghan have been in the wrong. The King's had cancer. He's not had an easy time of it since he took the throne. But also wasn't a suggestion that he's just not interested in reconciliation before this moment. So maybe perhaps that's what you heard, wasn't it? Well, Harry gave that BBC interview where he said, well, I don't know how much longer my father's got left, which really annoyed the palace, but also said he won't return my calls because of the security row. I think people were saying, well, no, he's not going to return your calls because you've spent the last few years relentlessly slagging him and his wife off, along with your brother and sister-in-law. Do it on telly. I just don't think that's what you do, is it, really? If you really want... You don't do a BBC interview? No. It strikes me as a bit of an unorthodox way to do that. But generally speaking, I'd like them to... I'm not that interested in the royals, but I would like to see... I think the way that Harry and Meghan have been treated has been quite rubbish as well by people. But haven't they treated the royals badly? I think it's all a bit ugly, but I just think from the starting point was it felt like at a certain point they were turned on to some extent, and I thought that was a bit unpleasant. Rob Burley, thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning. Great to speak to you. Coming up next, I'm going to be speaking to the Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. Hello, well there's plenty of hot and sunny weather across Europe, but there are still some showers out there for some of us. Across Madeira, sunny spells, some outbreaks of rain. Canary Islands, a mixture of sunny spells too. Plenty of sunshine across Portugal and Spain, with some showers across the Alps. Across the Greek islands, plenty of sunshine here and feeling hot, and that continues as we go through the week. Plenty of sunshine with temperatures into the low 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. The Secretary of State for Transport, Heidi Alexander, is going to join us in just a second. She's just being mic'd up. Rob Burley, have you got an electric car?
I haven't, no. And one of the reasons is I don't have a drive. So it's very hard to charge them if you don't have a drive or off-street parking. And the government actually have a policy which seems quite sensible. They're highlighting today about that. So that's good.
Well, they want everyone to have an EV, but not everyone can have them. People don't like them. They're too expensive.
Yeah, sure.
Both to buy and repair.
But this is
and there aren't enough charging points across the UK.
But this would let you, if you live in a regular street without a drive, you know, it's a little bit of tech that would allow you to charge your car in your house, and that's very cheap, and that's quite appealing.
But don't we need a charging point in every lamppost or something?
Yeah.
I mean, if this is going to happen...
I think it's the beginning of them paying some money to do this idea.
All right, Rob.
Thank you.
Heidi Alexander joins me now. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning, Transport Secretary. Can I start by asking you about the migrant deal that's been struck with France? Lovely to see you. This migrant deal, my producer Elizabeth has worked out that this deal will in fact be the equivalent of turning back less than one full boat of migrants a week. Apparently, the average number of migrants in a boat is about 64. This will return just 50 per week. So, pardon the pun, it's just a drop in the ocean, isn't it?
Well, actually, it's really important that we've got an international agreement with France because previous governments, Conservative government, failed to do this, and the only way we're going to solve this problem is by working with the French authorities. This is a pilot scheme. We're keen to see the scheme ramp up if it's successful. We're also working with the French authorities on making sure that they can take action in the shallow waters, in the French waters off the coast of France, to be able to stop small boats from reaching our shores in the first place. We have, by working with France, prevented about 12,000 channel crossings since we came to power, but there's more to do. Your viewers may have seen some of the footage of the French authorities puncturing the dinghies in the shallow waters a couple of weeks ago. The gangs who are smuggling people across the channel have changed their tactics, and it's appropriate that the French authorities change their tactics too. And part of the work we have been doing with the French is to get them to review their maritime laws so that they can adapt their techniques as well, and we welcome that.
Well, I mean, puncturing dinghies is surely the least the French can do, not least because they've trousered £500 million worth of UK taxpayers' cash. Yes, we've seen them puncture dinghies, but then there's some footage today showing that there are a load of migrants disappearing over a hill while police in Calais take selfies of the dinghy that they have punctured and not chasing after those who have tried to enter our country illegally.
Well, we're going to work with the French authorities in a whole manner of different ways to tackle this problem. You know, if you think back 20 years when there was a massive problem with stowaways on lorries that were coming through the Channel Tunnel, people were very dubious about the fact that we would be able to crack down on that problem. But by working with the French authorities and putting some really robust and rigorous processes in place, we were able to solve that problem. What the agreement with the French government does is it breaks the business model of these smuggling gangs. These are very sophisticated criminal gangs operating across multiple jurisdictions. That's why it's so important that in the last year we have made arrests in places like France and Germany, as well as in England and Wales, and why we're seeing prosecutions happening as well, because we've got to take some of the kingpins out of these international criminal gangs. So, you know, we're taking action on a whole variety of fronts, working with our international partners, setting up the new Border Security Command and giving them counter-terrorism style powers to deal with the people that are profiting from this trade in human beings at the moment. We're also, of course, taking action, just to reassure your viewers, on the people who don't have any right to be in the UK. And over, I think it was around 30,000 people have been removed from the UK who don't have a right to be here, don't have any permission to be in the country. And that's significantly up on the removals that took place under the last government.
OK, I mean, small boat crossings are at record highs. We're paying record high amounts on migrant hotels and such like. But let's move on to the economy. There's an interesting double-page spread in The Observer today, headlined, UK PLC is in a fix. We've got suggestions that the non-dom clampdown is going to cost $4 billion. We've got all businesses, big and small, against the workers' rights bill that Angela Rayner is trying to push through Parliament. And now we've got Downing Street refusing to rule out a wealth tax. How is that going to help growth, Heidi Alexander?
So what we saw in the first 3 months of this year was the British economy outperforming all other economies in the G7, which is the collection of most advanced economies in the world. And so, you know, when we stood for election last year, we said that we would get the economy firing on all cylinders. We're not going to be able to do this overnight. The previous government, the Conservatives, tanked the economy over 14 years. There was stagnant growth during that time. We're not going to be able to change everything overnight. But what I would say, Camilla, is that, you know, the fact that we have secured £120 billion of inward investment since we came into office is a sign of international capital looking at the UK as a place where they want to invest. In fact, Deloitte produced a report a couple of weeks ago saying that once we had done that US trade deal, it is actually one of the, if not the most attractive place for global investors to come and set up businesses and expand their operations.
Hang on. The Chancellor herself, back in 2022, tweeted this: GDP figures see dramatic drop to 0.1% in March. we must have an emergency budget. So last week, the economy shrunk by 0.1%, exactly the same figure that Rachel Reeves cited in 2022, calling for an emergency budget. So when the economy shrinks under the Conservatives, it's a national emergency. When it shrinks under Rachel Reeves, everything is going swimmingly. You can't possibly convince people that the economy right now is in a good state when you've even got The Observer, which is left-leaning, saying that the economy is tanking.
So look, GDP figures do bump around from month to month. If you consider the overall picture of the British economy, having secured 3 trade deals, one with the US, one with the European Union, one with India, those are all trade deals that the previous government sought to agree. The Conservatives tried for years to get an India free trade deal and never succeeded. We have come into office and we have done that. When I speak to businesses in my constituency about we had the fastest growing economy out of the G7 countries in the first 3 months of this year. Of course we want to go further.
That was before the April changes
kicked in. More economic growth. So look, you know, we've also, since the election, created nearly 400,000 jobs. We've seen 4 interest rates since we've
Hirings
come to
are
power.
down by 270,000.
Look, when I speak to people in my constituency, businesses and ordinary householders, what they're interested in is, do I feel better off and do I have more confidence in the economy? And so, look, you know, of course we've got more to do and we are never going to be complacent because, you know, making sure that we grow the economy so that we can invest in public services, our schools and hospitals, is the #1 priority of this government.
All right. Heidi Alexander, we've run out of time, but thank you very much for your time this morning. We'll be back in just a moment when I'm going to be speaking to the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Front page of the Times today says exercise proves the best therapy for keeping cancer at bay. Let's get the views of Tim Vincent.
It's quite an exciting trial, this. There's new findings every single day, isn't there? But I think this has been done over many years by a lot of people. And it actually says, you know, what you'd assume would be the case is that if you exercise, then it keeps your health in a better condition and will keep cancer from returning measurably, notably.
Yeah.
So I think it's 30-something%. And this is on people that have had cancer and then are encouraged to exercise. And there's many doctors over the years have said, you know, not quite sure. If you feel like you can exercise, then exercise. They're now saying you should exercise as soon as you feel good enough.
This just
and
makes
this
me,
will make a big
This makes me feel awful because I would have been pro-exercise, except I can't move. I'm in a wheelchair now, and I can't put on the right trainers, I can't change, I can't go to the showers, I can't do things. It's just I can't stand up. So there are a lot of people who are incapable of exercising, and therefore, rightly so, we see their increase of cancer growing.
Absolutely, and that's an issue that everybody's going to face, and you're obviously in a really difficult position. Any exercise, I think, is going to help, especially for these people that have had cancer once and can get out there. And it's very isolating as well, exercising.
So you're actually saying, if you're in redemption from cancer or whatever, you could keep it at bay by exercising.
It's actually better than a pill.
Yeah,
the results are actually better than a poll.
I think it's 36%, isn't it, for exercise?
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning and welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp will be here. What does he make of Sir Keir Starmer's latest attempt to stop the boats? I'll be speaking to the former Brexit Secretary, Sir David Davis, about President Macron's comments this week. I'm also going to be asking him about a debate happening in the Commons tomorrow on the proposed prosecution of Northern Ireland veterans. And Ukrainian MP Oleksiy Goncharenko will join me as President Trump is set to make what he has described as a major announcement on Russia tomorrow. But first, here's your latest news headlines with Lewis Mackenzie.
Good morning. Thank you, Camilla. It's just after 10 o'clock. Here are your latest GB News headlines. GB News can reveal that more than 1,200 small boat migrants have crossed the Channel since the UK Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and French President Emmanuel Macron signed the migrants' return deal. In the 3 days since the Anglo-French deal was signed, 1,226 have made the illegal journey. This comes days after the PM hailed the agreement with Paris as a historic deal, allowing for a partial return of small boat migrants arriving in the UK. The British and French governments are yet to put a figure on the number of migrants France will accept back. A child has died in hospital after contracting measles amid fears the disease could spread like wildfire as vaccine rates plunge. The child, whose identity has not been revealed, passed away at Alder Hey Children's Hospital in Liverpool. It is understood that they have been suffering from other health complications. This comes days after the parents reportedly described feeling scared as several children in Merseyside were hospitalised due to the spread of the measles virus. Officials describe the children as seriously unwell, with doctors warning lives could be put at risk because of youngsters not being vaccinated. The Department for Transport has announced a £63 million boost accelerating Britain's electric vehicle revolution. The government's package will support home EV charging for households without driveways, help decarbonise NHS fleets and install thousands of charging points at businesses across the UK. The scheme is also aiming to modernise EV charging signage on major roads. The EU and Mexico have expressed their disappointment at US President Donald Trump's threat to impose a 30% tariff on their imports. Mexico says it's an unfair deal and insists its sovereignty was non-negotiable, while the EU's chief, Ursula von der Leyen, threatened to take proportionate countermeasures. But both say that they want to keep negotiating with the US. It's been reported that talks between the Health Secretary Wes Streeting and the British Medical Association will take place next week in a bid to avert strike action in England. Resident doctors, previously known as junior doctors, announced earlier this week that they will walk out for 5 consecutive days in late July over a dispute over pay with the government. The BMA says strikes would only be called off if next week, only if talks can produce an offer that can be put to the members. But the government has previously insisted it cannot improve its offer of a 5.4% increase for its year. Well, those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Lewis Mackenzie. More from me in an hour's time.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Lewis, and welcome back. Joining me now is Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp. Mr. Philp, lovely to see you this morning as ever. The Sunday Express front page quotes your former colleague David Jones, who's defected to Reform, the latest Tory to do so, claiming that the migrant deal with France, quotes, won't stop a single boat. Do you agree with that analysis?
Good morning, Camilla. Yes, I do, because under this so-called deal, it's really a bit of a gimmick in my view. Only 6% of illegal immigrants crossing the Channel will get sent back to France. The other 94% will get to stay in the UK. And obviously, having 94% of illegal immigrants staying in the UK will not act as any deterrent at all. It's another gimmick, just like Keir Starmer's Smash the Gang gimmick a year or so ago, which you'll notice he never mentions anymore, because so far this year we've seen record ever numbers of illegal immigrants crossing the English Channel, the highest number in history so far this year. And I'm afraid this so-called deal, this gimmick last week, is going to make no difference to that whatsoever.
Well, you say it's a gimmick. The Tories were constantly banging on about stopping the boats and smashing the gangs. And it must have been a gimmick when you were doing it, because you didn't do either, did you?
Well, not entirely, Camilla. So first of all, in 2023, the calendar year, that was our last full year in office, we actually got the small boat numbers down by about 30%. So that was quite a big step in the right direction. And we then had, the second step in the plan was to basically remove 100% of arrivals the minute their feet touched the shore using the Rwanda scheme. And obviously common sense tells you that if you've got a 100% or close to 100% chance of getting removed, then you're not going to bother attempting the crossing in the first place. Something very similar worked in Australia about 12 years ago. Now that went through a whole load of legal challenges. We had to pass a new law through Parliament. It was ready to go last summer. It was ready to go at the end of July, just after the election, but it was handed to Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper on a plate. And what did they do? They cancelled it just a few days before it was due to start.
All right.
And as a consequence, instead of continuing the downward trend, immigration across the Channel, illegal immigration, has surged by over 40% since the election, and it's now been the worst year in history, thanks to their ineptitude.
Although there's an interesting expose in the Mail on Sunday entitled "Boat Migrants' Crazy Golf Trips on You." And this is talking about Kent County Council splurging all sorts of staggering sums, including £102 on Fortnum and Mason goods, Disney and Netflix subscriptions worth 10 grand, an Amazon bill of 162,000, all apparently, according to Zia Youssef, that was ascribed to the asylum budget. I was reading the story thinking, what is this nonsense? How could this have happened? And then I realised that it must have happened under the Conservatives' watch, because before the last local elections, wasn't Kent in control of the Conservatives?
Yeah, well, I don't know when that expenditure was incurred or whether it was paid by the Home Office. It could have happened after the last election. I don't know, because it's the Home Office that runs the asylum budget. But everything you just read out, Camilla, without question, is a total... OK, well, the year to June of this year, that's obviously after the last general election. Whoever was responsible, frankly, that is an outrageous waste of money.
You were in charge until the locals, which were in May. So it's mostly on your watch, isn't it?
That was Kent County Council. Well, yes, yeah, but just as the Home Office runs the asylum budget, and Labour have been Labour have been running the Home Office since July of last year. But frankly, whoever was responsible, that should obviously never have happened. That is absolutely outrageous. And I can tell you one thing: if I become Home Secretary, that nonsense will stop completely.
What did you make of Macron saying that Brits have been sold a lie on Brexit? I mean, to be fair, the French president's not wrong, is he? Boris Johnson kept on banging on about us taking back control of our borders, and then seemed intensely relaxed about mass migration.
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't think politicians in any country should denigrate the results of democratic elections, whether those are referenda or national elections. I think any politician of any colour and in any country should respect elections when they happen and respect the views of the public. And to say, oh, they made a mistake or all that kind of stuff, I think is actually damaging to democracy. So I think those words were not particularly well chosen. Look, on the levels of legal migration in recent years, I've said it before, Camilla, I've said it to you, I'll say it again, they have been far, far too high under successive governments for very many years, but including recent years, they've been far, far too high. So, as we've discussed previously, we need to have a binding annual cap set by Parliament.
I'm not going to stop asking you what the cap should be.
We haven't announced the number yet. We haven't. You keep asking, and we are going to come up with a number. It won't be this morning. It'll be at a far, far lower level than anything we've seen in recent years, because it's been far too high. We must end the era of mass low-skilled migration. It's got to stop.
Why hasn't the Conservatives said that the whole Motability scheme should be reassessed. I was absolutely staggered to read that people are able to claim Motability vehicles. So these are taxpayer-funded vehicles. They currently account for 1 in 5 new car sales in the UK. Let me find it. Good God. 20 people claimed cars for food intolerance. 20 people claimed cars for constipation. 150 cars were given to people with a frozen shoulder. Probably not the best idea to drive under such circumstances. Oh, this is my favourite, as it's the men's final at Wimbledon today. 40 cars given for people suffering tennis elbow.
That is clearly ridiculous, right? Those people with the conditions you just read out, Camilla, should not be getting free cars paid for by the taxpayer. As you said, 1 in 5 new cars in the UK is given out under this scheme. So I think, first of all, those conditions you just read out, they should not be eligible for free cars paid for by the taxpayer, obviously. But secondly, we need to have much better evaluations of who is or is not disabled. It's been being done over the phone since COVID. That has to end. As Kemi said in her speech, I think on Thursday, we need to have face-to-face, proper face-to-face medical examinations so that only people who are actually genuinely disabled get all of these extra benefits, whether it's Motability cars or the extra money, instead of having people with, a bit of anxiety or whatever, signed off and given a lot of extra cash. We simply can't afford it as a country. We tabled amendments in Parliament, I think it was last week, to tighten up on this. For example, those face-to-face examinations, but Labour voted against those. So we have actually a really clear dividing line in British politics. Labour and Reform as well, actually, wanting higher benefit payments. For example, Reform want to get rid of the 2-child benefit cap so people can have 6 children, subsidised by hard-working taxpayers. We Conservatives are the only party who want to reform welfare, get this expenditure down. It's forecasting to go to 100 billion by 2030.
Well, it went up by 86
because it'll
billion.
drive taxes for the rest of us up.
It went up by 86 billion under the Tories. But let's just move on because we're running out of time. The Prime Minister's having his 7th reset, refresh, whatever you want to call it, of the year. He might reshuffle his cabinet. Who does Chris Philp think should be the first to go?
Goodness me, there are so many to choose from. Well, I think, frankly, Keir Starmer himself should be the first to go because he is the one who has presided over massive tax increases. No, fair enough. OK, Rachel Reeves then.
OK, come
because,
on. Rachel Reeves. That's a bit unfair. She was in tears last week.
Because well, look, she has presided over massive tax increases. They lied about it before the last election. They said there weren't going to be any tax rises. Then they put up massive tax rises in the budget last October, which has caused unemployment to go up every single month of the Labour government. It's now 12% higher than last year, and it's caused the economy to shrink. Our economy has shrunk for the last 2 months in a row.
I'm not clear what Kemi Badenoch's economic philosophy is. I don't think the public is either.
Let me finish this point, then I'll... Well, she wrote a thing in the Telegraph about this today. So, look, let me finish the point about Labour. They're going to put taxes up even further in the autumn because they don't have the courage to reform welfare. Kemi set out a different approach, controlling welfare, reduce the size of the state, and that will enable the tax base to get down. Kemi is the only leader who is articulating a carefully thought-out, credible policy to get this tax burden off the shoulders of hard-working people. But under this Labour government, it's only going in one direction. It's getting worse and worse and worse.
OK. Chris Philp, thank you very much indeed, as ever, for your time this morning. Yes, he's right. Telegraph op-ed. Commentary by Kemi Badenoch. Britain needs a post-COVID reset to back ambition and not mediocrity. We need a reset, everybody. We're going to have a little reset now before we speak to our next guest, Sir David Davis, who's going to be talking about what Macron said about Brexit lies. Did he tell lies? And also discuss this whole idea of trying to prosecute Northern Ireland veterans for taking on the IRA back in the days of the Troubles. So lots more still to come. And we're going to be speaking to a US political analyst about Trump. And it's an anniversary, it's the first anniversary, would you believe, of that assassination attempt. Loads more still to come. Do not move a muscle.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. With me now is the MP for Goole and Pocklington and former Brexit Secretary, Sir David Davis. David, lovely to see you this morning. You've had quite a lot of experience negotiating with the French. Michel Barnier and you going head-to-head during the Brexit wars. What do you make of this migrant deal? Will it actually stop the boats?
No, I mean, they call it 1 in, 1 out. It's actually 17 in, 1 out. If it works, you know, it's completely cost-free to the French. From their point of view, they get rid of somebody every time they receive somebody. From our point of view, it won't actually work as a deterrent. I mean, the one thing, Chris Philp was talking to you earlier, the one thing about the Rwanda deal, which had its issues, but the one thing about it was clearly a deterrent. When people thought it was going to happen, they either didn't get in the boats, or if they're already here, they fled to Ireland. So this will not act as a deterrent. So it is a disaster. I'm afraid the simple truth is that the Prime Minister, he loves rubbing shoulders with international contemporaries, but he's not very good at doing deals with them. He's altogether too supine, whether it's President Trump or President Macron, and this is a really bad outcome.
People could say you're not in no position to talk. Did you get a good Brexit deal with Theresa May all those years ago?
There was a reason I resigned,
yes.
Because we didn't stand up to them. That's one of the problems. We simply didn't stand up to either the French or the Germans, who were determined to try to make Brexit fail. Now, despite all of that, we had the advantages of the vaccine, we had the advantages of AUKUS, we had, we've got better regulations on AI than they have now, and of course they're going to have a 30% penalty in trade terms with America, which we are avoiding by not being in there, and that's not unrelated to the reasons for Brexit, because the reason they're going to have a penalty with the Americans is because they rig the system. All this European regulation, burden of regulation, which we hated so much, is there to stop foreign countries being able to export to the European Union, and it's a deliberate rig. So all those reasons, even with what I would grant you is not a very good negotiation, the outcome is proving materially better for us. And as for the area, I mean, you were quite rightly pulling up Chris Philp on the immigration issue. Well, one of the areas, of course, where immigration with France and ourselves is key is the illegal immigration, what the deal's about. The raw truth is, the reason, or the large part of the reason for the growth in that immigration is French behavior, is the French police behavior. And you want an example of that? Just look next door. Look at Brussels, look at Belgium next door. I don't often talk up Belgium, but Belgium in the last 4 years has cut illegal migration across the channel by 90%. 90%. And up until last year, the French originating had gone up by about 25%. It's gone up again another half this year. So
how have they done it, David?
How have the French, the Belgians done it? Well, I mean, a whole variety of things. They track down groups of mobile phones, which tell you when people are approaching the beach. They put a few concrete barriers on to stop people getting vehicles on the beach. They do proper follow-up. They've actually arrested about 100 odd smugglers, people smugglers, and imprisoned them. So, they've just done the obvious things.
Yeah, it's basic stuff, this. Yeah, let's talk about that Macron quote about us being sold a Brexit lie then. I mean, when it comes to controlling our borders, we were, weren't we?
Well, I think in terms of the control of borders, there are two elements to this. The other half is us. I mean, we have to force the pace on this. We should have embarrassed the French, frankly, into doing what the Belgians did. We haven't done it. We haven't been robust enough on this, I'm afraid. And that's hardly a new view from me. I've been saying this for years.
No, I know.
So, but the other half of it, which I think you're right on, is the question of legal migration. And every government since Tony Blair's government has used legal migration as a way of pumping up the economy. This is a problem that starts in the Treasury, and we didn't put a stop to it. We should have done, and we didn't put a stop to it. And it requires a degree of determination. It also requires us being quite robust with our own business class and say to them, you've got to start training British workers for these jobs. You've got to start investing in people. I mean, there was a story when I was in cabinet with Theresa May, and she told a story of talking to a strawberry farmer, and he said, if I don't have these migrants, I won't be able to run my business. She said, well, what will you do if you actually haven't got them? And he said, well, I suppose I'll have to invest in automatic strawberry pickers. Yeah. That's the story. Investment in Britain, investment in making high productive work. Those are the things we have to do. The Treasury, I'm afraid, was the biggest impediment to that. We have to face it down and do the jobs ourselves.
All right. Well, the other thing you're trying to face down is this effort to repeal the Northern Ireland Troubles (Brackets) Legacy Act. Just tell me, because the GB News audience might not be familiar with what exactly has happened here. You introduced this legislation, I think, back in 2023 to prevent Northern Ireland veterans from being retrospectively prosecuted for killing members of the IRA and other terrorist groups during the Troubles. What's Labour now trying to do?
Well, Labour, and I think it's probably the Attorney General to a very large extent, the driver, under the sort of excuse of human rights, has been saying, well, we're going to have to repeal this because you lost a court case. Actually, the court case was still in process when they came in. They didn't complete the appeal. So, but what they're also doing, frankly, is appeasing Ireland and appeasing a number of people who want to rewrite history. The IRA cannot represent murdering nearly 2,000 people as anything other than a horror. So what they're trying to do is to drag us down to the same level, try to say that our soldiers were running an assassination policy. Well, the truth is, they were making decisions in a split second. The three biggest issues were the conflicts at Coke and Clonau and Loughor. I looked at them all in some detail. in each of them, the IRA were trying to carry out murders, trying to assassinate an individual UDR officer, or trying to blow up a police station, or trying to machine gun a police station. In each case, they were carrying out murders or trying to. And the army intervened, and as I say, making split-second decisions, a number of the IRA were killed. Now, that's what happens if you start a civil war. And you can't apply sort of conventional human rights rules to this. People make decisions in a hurry. Now, the government's trying to back off on this. We've got 170,000 signatures so far on our petition for a debate. That debate's going to happen tomorrow. Hillary Benn is going to respond to it, the Northern Ireland secretary. My hunch is he's not going to have an answer. The simple truth is, what they should have done right back at the beginning, what Blair should have done, is have a truth and reconciliation process like the South Africans had. He didn't. He just basically exonerated, pardoned all of the murderers and left our soldiers hanging. We've got to put that right. I've never seen such a stark example of two-tier justice, of politically driven justice, what it is.
Well, let's just talk about that, David, briefly. Sorry, just talk about that, because you mentioned the Attorney General, Lord Hermer, earlier. Now, I just want to caveat this conversation by pointing out that Lord Hermer is a lawyer. He's not got a right of reply here, so let's be very careful what we're saying. He has previously defended Gerry Adams of Sinn Féin fame. So you're saying that he is pushing this from what perspective exactly?
Well, what I'm saying is that the government's approach is one that says this is a human rights issue. I don't really think, look, there's nobody who's fought harder for human rights in the Commons on either side of the House than me, but I don't think it is. I think it's politically driven. But I think people like Lord Hermer, and I'm not a critic of him for representing people who we might not like in court cases. That happens. Lawyers do that. They have to have lawyers, so they do that. No, what I'm a critic of is using a human rights excuse to destroy the retirements of people who are heroic, patriotic, fought with skill and courage to defend us. And by the way, one of the effects of these operations was the murder rate in Northern Ireland went down dramatically afterwards. Hundreds and hundreds of people being killed in Armagh and East Tyrone and so on, and Belfast before then. After these operations, frankly, when the killers were dead, the death rate went down. The death rate amongst innocent people went down. Trying to wrap that up as a human rights issue on behalf of the killers, frankly, the murderers who themselves got killed, in my view, is a misuse of human rights.
Very final quick question then. This debate tomorrow, I mean, can you really force the government's hand on this? Do you have the numbers?
No. No, and it will not be decisive. This is about the general public. If you think, where do our soldiers come from? In 2 world wars, they were won by mostly young men, but young women as well, from the industrial heartland of Britain, from Leeds and Bradford, from Bingley, from Wigan, from Birmingham. These places are now littered with what we used to call red wall seats. Red wall seats with majorities of a few hundred or maybe 1,000 or so. There are 2 million retired veterans in this country. Many of them live in those seats. It's for them to say to their MP, look, if you want me to vote for you next time, you've got to make sure that I, my family, my colleagues, my comrades get proper justice. And this is not proper justice.
All right, we need to leave it there, Sir David, but thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. Well, we're just talking about civil war there. We're going to be talking about actual war next with Ukrainian MP Oleksiy Goncharenko. He's going to join me as President Trump is set to make a major announcement on Russia tomorrow. This is the Camilla Tominey Show, only on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, it's going to be another very warm day on offer with sunny spells before turning more changeable as we go through Monday. So through this morning then, we still have some low cloud just hugging eastern coast, but for many it's a warm start to the day with plenty of sunshine, a bit more cloud in the forecast compared to Saturday, and we may see a few showers just bubbling up across parts of Wales and into England. Otherwise, it's still warm out there, highs of 29, 30, possibly 31 degrees, just not as hot as Saturday, and always cooler along that eastern coast. So through Sunday afternoon then, there's a few showers just bubbling up across the south of Scotland, but for most it's fine, it's dry with just some low clouds still lingering across those eastern coasts. Across Northern Ireland, initially it's fine and dry, but we have got showery outbreaks of rain soon moving in. So sunshine turning hazy as well for the far southwest of England with some showers here. Otherwise, majority of places staying dry. So as we go through Sunday evening, the return of low cloud across the North Sea and into eastern areas. Otherwise, low pressure becoming more dominant with showery outbreaks of rain moving in from the west and pushing its way north and eastwards. But it's still going to be a warm and muggy night to come, with again temperatures holding up at around 17 or 18 degrees. So Monday is when we start to see the change in our weather. Low pressure becoming dominant. We'll see showery outbreaks of rain initially across Northern Ireland, into western parts of Wales, and then into northern England and into Scotland. Heavy downpours, perhaps even with the odd rumble of thunder. Driest across the southeast, where it will still stay warm but cooler elsewhere. Bye-bye.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show. Joining me now is Ukrainian MP Oleksiy Goncharenko. Great to see you, Oleksiy. We had one of the biggest nights of shelling on Friday in Ukraine. Just to begin with, what's the mood like there?
Camilla, and the mood is difficult, but unfortunately we got used already to this. Yes, in June, Russia ramped up its attacks against Ukrainian cities, against civilians, and killed the biggest number of civilians from the beginning of full-scale invasion. Big attacks on Kiev, Odessa, Kharkiv, and other cities of Ukraine. A lot of people killed, so definitely Putin feels himself emboldened. He feels that he made a fool from US President Trump, and with this wavering of American support, now he feels that he can increase his attacks.
We'll get on to Trump in just a moment. I mean, how do you assess Ukraine's current position in the battle?
You know, it's relatively what we're looking for. Definitely we're in a hard situation. Russia is attacking on all parts of the front line, attacking our cities, attacking civilians, making these terroristic attacks and terrifying people. At the same time, Russia was planning this big summer offensive. It's already middle of the summer. Where are Russian big results? There is no big results. Yes, they advanced, they took, I don't know, 10, 12 villages more, but it's definitely not the way. By this pace of their, how they're moving now, it will take 100 years for them to take the whole Ukraine. And they don't have enough people to do this. They lost a lot of people during these months. And that's why Lavrov, Russian foreign minister, again, is in North Korea, again asking for North Korean troops, because Russia needs more people to continue this attack. So they don't have strategic successes, but they have tactical successes. And yes, it's quite hard for us now.
How is Ukraine doing when it comes to recruiting its own boots on the ground? I read recently that Russia's managing to summon, maybe with North Korea's help, actually, around 40,000 troops, but Ukraine only 25,000.
Yeah, look, the situation. Russia is much bigger than Ukraine. Also, they have North Korea as ally. With all respect to all our allies, we can say that, yes, and again, I'm very thankful to all support we are receiving, but no one from our allies is ready to send troops, is ready to send boots on the ground. So it's quite hard. But if we will receive more weapons, and if we will receive now, we can stop Russians, even with North Koreans together. And we show it by the way how we defend our country now in a situation like what we have today.
What's the situation when it comes to Donald Trump? First of all, he's paused the aid. He's less forthcoming when it comes to weaponry. What do the people of Ukraine think about the way that the US president has been handling this?
I should be frank with you. People of Ukraine are not happy with this, definitely.
Yeah.
But recently we have some signs of improvement. From the very beginning, it was clear for us that Putin is just playing games with Trump. Trump really wants peace. I absolutely believe in this. But to achieve peace, he needs to speak with Putin in another way. He needs to show strength to Putin, not trying to convince him in anything. It will not work. We were saying this from the very beginning. From March, Ukraine said we are ready for immediate, unconditional ceasefire right now. And only Putin was declining this. And fortunately, it looks like recently, President Trump realized that Putin is just playing games with him. He said that Putin is making a lot of bullshit towards the United States. And he is very nice. That was his quote to President Trump. But all of this is meaningless. That's exactly what's happening. So now we're waiting for tomorrow when President Trump announced some major news on Russia. And I hope this news will be more military support to Ukraine, seizing of Russian frozen assets, and more sanctions against Russia. Immediately when Trump will do this, Putin will change his attitude, and that will be real negotiations.
I'm just going to say a quick apology for your language there, Goncharenko, but to be fair, you were quoting the president verbatim with the BS word there. I mean, what's a victory going to look like as far as you're concerned? We've perhaps been distracted by the conflict in the Middle East, where there's constant talk of peace deals and ceasefires. I don't feel I've heard much of that kind of talk when it comes to Ukraine. What's a good result for you right now?
The good result for us is to stop hostilities as soon as possible. So immediate unconditional ceasefire is something we are ready for, and which is a good result for us. And that what Trump said is an aim for him, and I absolutely believe him in this. So the only obstacle to this is Putin and his wish to continue the war against Ukraine and to continue killings, because he's feeling that he can achieve his bigger goals. That's what we're looking for now. Definitely, it shouldn't be accompanied and can't be accompanied with any recognition of occupied territories as Russian. They are Ukrainian, but they are illegally occupied, and they can be in this status for some time, for a while. I don't know for how long, but they will be occupied by Russia for some time, but they are illegally occupied by Russia. This is important for us. So that's how we see it.
Do you include Crimea in that, Oleksiy? Because some people in the... Yeah, OK, because some people think that the idea that...
Any inch of Ukrainian internationally recognized territories, including Crimea, the same situation. Yes, Russia controls today these territories, but if some thief, I don't know, took your phone and even ran away somewhere where you can't reach him, it doesn't make your phone his. That's the same story. It's our territories, and sooner or later we'll take them back, but not by force, but by diplomatic means. When Russia will collapse. This moment will come, I'm absolutely sure about this.
Sure. I mean, do you think Putin's been weakened or emboldened? I mean, many have talked about his health. He obviously had the whole attempted Wagner coup, and that ended badly for Prigozhin. Certainly, he fell out of the sky in a plane. What's your analysis of Putin right now? I agree with you that the flip-flopping by the US president hasn't been helpful, but if Donald Trump does turn strongly against Putin, he could well be in trouble despite the axis of evil he seems to have formed with North Korea.
Absolutely. North Korea will not save him if the United States will really support Ukraine. Putin is emboldened today. I can't say that he's weakened. That's no to speak. Is he ill or not? I can't. Strategy on some rumors about how Putin looks like today or tomorrow. It's not the way to do. We need to show strength to Russia. It's not about Putin. It's about Russia. This country only in history understood one language of strength. When they see strong position, they are backing. When they don't see strong position, they are advancing. That's it. And nothing else will work with them. So I hope that President Trump realized this, and now he will change his attitude to them. And he has enough leverages, enough force in the United States to make Putin really to accept ceasefire and then peace. It is absolutely possible.
OK, Oleksiy Goncharenko, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Stay safe out there.
Thank you very much, Camilla.
Thank you. We'll obviously be covering the announcement that Trump does make on Russia tomorrow on GB News, so do stay tuned for that. Well, coming up next, we're going to get the US perspective on how Donald Trump has been handling not only the conflict in Ukraine, but also the conflict in the Middle East, and reflecting on it being the first-year anniversary of that assassination attempt. I'm going to be speaking to Laurie Laird, who is a US political analyst. Don't go anywhere.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, well, there's plenty of hot and sunny weather across Europe, but there are still some showers out there for some of us. Across Madeira, sunny spells, some outbreaks of rain. Canary Islands, a mixture of sunny spells too. Plenty of sunshine across Portugal and Spain, with some showers across the Alps. Across the Greek islands, plenty of sunshine here and feeling hot. And that continues as we go through the week. Plenty of sunshine with temperatures into the low 30s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
You have to tackle gross levels of inequality. Now, this is not about being... it's not about fairness or the politics of envy. It's about saying we need more money in average people's pockets so they can go out and spend. What's happening is a lot of people are spending all their money on rents and mortgages.
So you want to take money off rich people and give it to poorer people?
Yeah, but obviously, when I say rich, who do you imagine?
No, well, I don't know, because I'm not proposing it. You tell me.
So for me, I'm not talking about those who've done quite well, those who've grown their businesses. I'm talking about the billionaire class and the corporations. Oh. And I don't want to look at increasing income taxes necessarily. It should be about a wealth tax, because if we don't do anything about it, it's going to get worse. Now, what's interesting what you said about benefits, I know there's this pervasive idea. I just want to make that point quickly.
Let him finish his point. She's about to spontaneously combust, but hang on. Go on, finish your point.
There is this pervasive idea that, well, we need to cut benefits to force people into work. And you can understand the logic there. It makes sense, right? What's interesting is in Denmark, they have a higher labour rate of participation, which a fancy phrase of more working age people are in work than the UK. In 2022, it was like 80%, 2024, 75%. Look at the UK, only 53% of people in work, yet Denmark have a far higher or far generous welfare state.
Well, we've had a lot of cheap labour that has come in, which that's taken the levels of earnings down at times, and that's left...
I disagree with that.
Left, well, just let me finish. And that's left a lot of people who already live here, basically lounging on the sofa and thinking, well, my benefits are great, why should I get out of bed? Why should I get out of bed for another 20 quid a week? And we've got to get rid of that mentality, because it's the same people...
You're using anecdotes here. You're not looking at the facts.
I've told you the facts. Who seem to be contributing to this economy year in and year out. And a lot of them are actually older.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that.
When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Let's talk Americana now with US political journalist Laurie Laird, who joins me in the studio. Lovely to see you this morning, Laurie. Thank you for coming in. The state visit's been planned. The red carpet is being rolled out thanks to the King. However, there's a bit of consternation in the UK because President Trump is going to be denied the opportunity to address either of the Houses of Parliament. We just had Emmanuel Macron in. He spoke to the Commons and the Lords. Not in the case of the Donald. It's being arranged for the recess. And people are a bit suspicious, thinking, why is he being denied the right?
Is denied the right word?
I don't know.
You know, it's not clear to me that this is something Donald Trump wants to do. And let's look at the way he interacts with Congress in the U.S. Sure. The legislature is not something that he values a great deal, right? This is a man who sets policy by executive order. So if he doesn't really regard the legislature in the U.S., I'm not sure that he cares that much about it here in the U.K.
That's interesting.
Trump likes royalty, right? I think he wants to hang out with Prince William more than he wants to hang out with, Ed Davey.
Yes. I think we can all sympathise with that approach. All right, so he wants to hang out with Kate and William.
He didn't seem to request that at the first state visit. I'm not entirely sure that this is the top of his, of his short list of things to do when he's in London.
He might want to have some kind of golf course summit with Prince William and Kate. That would
but let's see what happens, because he's meant to go to one of his golf courses later in the month in Scotland.
Yes.
And that'll be an interesting sort of taster.
Yeah. Trouble is, the only royal that likes golf is the Duke of York. I'm not sure he's going to be on the agenda. But anyway...
that brings up all sorts of interesting questions, right?
That could be a bit of a different kind of trip. Laurie, how would you assess the first 6 months of Trump 2.0? Because obviously the tariffs have caused a huge amount of controversy across the world. The EU has now been slapped with 30%. We're all relieved over here because of Brexit saving us from that fate. But what do you think?
Trump has wanted to be transformational. I'll say that he probably has been.
Yeah.
Not so much with the tariffs. Trump does 100 things before breakfast, and it's very difficult to keep up with what is actually happening. But some of the things that I think are underreported are attacks on the legal system, the judiciary. One of the first things that Trump did was to threaten, leading law firms with a reduction of federal contracts if they went against his wishes. Now, who is ever going to sue the government right now?
Yes.
That is transformational. His disregard, we talked about the legislature a few moments ago, his disregard for Congress, and Congress lying down and rolling over, saying, okay, rule by executive order. We don't feel a need to intervene here. These are transformational things. His elevation of ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Branch, this is becoming the most prominent legal body or enforcement body, policing body in the U.S. These are big transformational things, but there's so much that goes on in any given day of the Trump presidency that's difficult to report on at all.
Well, has he killed woke? I mean, I say that with the caveat that we've seen an ultra-left Democratic candidate for New York mayor rise, Zohran Mamdani. So I'm thinking he might have killed woke, but he may have also emboldened the left in America to fight back against some of these things.
You bring up a very interesting point. We may not have time. The Democrats do need to understand what went wrong.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of voters felt that the Democrats did not identify with them, did not represent their wishes. It doesn't feel to me like the Democrats are learning any lessons from that electoral loss. They don't seem to be understanding what voters want. Has that been killed? I'm not sure that woke was something that Americans really cared about. But I don't know that the Democrats are learning the lessons with that. I think there's still a lot of identity politics on the left side of the political divide.
But then that whole kind of thing about they are for them and taking on DEI and taking on transgender women in sport and all that. I mean, you say the Americans maybe don't care as much about the culture wars as we do in the UK, but that was effective politics, wasn't it? It was people having had enough with sort of hand-wringing leftism.
I think, in retrospect, that any Democratic candidate who presided over 11% inflation in the U.S. After the invasion of Ukraine, after all of the supply chain problems after COVID, that candidate was not going to be elected regardless.
Yeah, it's the economy, stupid.
Absolutely. But the Democrats cannot seem to agree upon a candidate that speaks to America as a whole. And I've been so surprised at how ineffective the Democrats have been.
Yeah.
The only Democrats that we see who are sort of putting their head above the parapet are Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yes.
And they have been quite vocal about some of the things that are happening, this bypassing of the legislature. I'm sorry to keep coming back to that. But these are Democrats that Americans cannot relate to.
No, they're fringe figures. They're the equivalent of Jeremy Corbyn in the US, right?
Absolutely. They're both charismatic politicians, but Americans do not feel that these two politicians represent their interests.
No. And also, when we've seen Gavin Newsom and others pop up, it's been because LA's been on fire. Let's talk about the economy. I mean, the tariffs are perceived to be controversial across the world. He was constantly banging on about bringing down the price of eggs. Has he, Laurie? I mean, what's the US economy doing?
Egg prices have come down. But there was a funny, there was a quirk with egg prices. We had avian flu in the US. Huge bits, large numbers of chickens were culled. Fewer eggs were coming onto the market. Supply goes down, price goes up. That would have happened regardless of who was president. Inflation is still higher than the Federal Reserve, the central bank, needs it to be. It's about 2.5%. It's a little cooler than people were worried about. And I think Trump has become more vocal on tariffs over the past week or so because all of these dramatic things that were meant to happen to the economy, economists were saying, you put tariffs on, the economy's going to slow down, inflation's going to rise, unemployment's going to rise. Those things may happen, but they haven't happened yet. No. All of the numbers that we're seeing are pretty strong. Unemployment, 4.1%. That's what economists think is full employment. You're always going to have a little unemployment in the economy. You're always going to have people who don't work. They're stay-at-home moms. They don't need to work. So we're at full employment. Inflation is higher than target, but it's not terribly high. It's not that 11% that I mentioned. No. So the economy at the moment is looking pretty good. Now, we don't know how long that's going to last.
Yeah. Do you think the midterms are going to go okay for him briefly, Laurie, because we're running out of time?
An interesting question. Yeah, I do, but only because the Democrats haven't figured out how to campaign.
Yes. So it's more about the Democrats' failure to regroup post-Biden than necessarily Trump being hugely popular.
To even ask the right questions.
Yes, and to actually have a candidate that can take him on. Thank you very much, Laurie Laird. Lovely to speak to you. We'll be keeping a close eye on politics this week, not least because Donald Trump has been suggesting that he's going to make a big announcement on Russia. Well, coming up next is Michael Portillo, who, as ever, is presenting his 11 o'clock show. Michelle Mabel, what's coming up?
Good morning, Camilla. Well, I'm going to be asking whether a wealth tax will be a moral or immoral thing to impose upon us. We're coming up to the 80th anniversary of the atomic bomb in Hiroshima. There's a remarkable new book on that. I'll be interviewing the author. The Bayeux Tapestry is going to come to Britain. I'll be asking what story the Bayeux Tapestry tells and whether we'll be joining the queues to see it when it arrives in Britain. And we'll be asking how nostalgic we are. Do you miss telegrams, landlines, compact discs and Blue Peter?
I'm not sure about Blue Peter. I tell you what I miss, airmail letters. Those blue envelopes, that's what I miss, Michael.
And that funny air paper. It was very, very crinkly and very, very thin and very, very light.
Exactly, which I'm sure you sent a lot on your travels on trains.
Certainly
We'll
did.
look forward to you in about 5 minutes' time, Michael. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to all of my guests today. It's been another great one. I'm going to be back next Sunday at 9:30. And I don't mind telling you, I'm off to the men's final at Wimbledon. So exciting. New balls, please. Yes, I think we've got some weather and Portillo's up next. Have a great day.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Plenty of sunshine still today as high pressure is just about in charge. However, we will see a change over the next 24 hours or so as low pressure in the Atlantic starts to move our way, bringing weather fronts indicating the risk of some heavy showers and rain in places. But for the rest of the day, plenty of sunshine for many of us. A little bit more cloud around compared to yesterday, though still some eastern coast seeing some cloudy conditions through the day, perhaps the odd spot of drizzle, but the sunshine is still strong. Temperatures a little lower than yesterday, still widely mid to high 20s, locally 31 or 32 towards southeast Wales. So a warm afternoon to come for many, a little fresher around the coasts, and then a fine evening to come for much of the UK. Some low cloud perhaps around Orkney and Shetland this evening, but Scotland generally dry. However, there is the risk of 1 or 2 showers starting to bubble up through the evening in that strong sunshine to end the day. Northern Ireland largely dry. Again, England and Wales plenty of sunshine, though cloud thickening across parts of Devon and Cornwall as weather systems slowly approach from the Atlantic. Through the rest of the evening and overnight, some low cloud returns just like the last few nights across eastern parts of the UK, thick enough for some showery outbreaks of rain, and then bands of showers and rain start to move into the north and the west. Some of these showers could start turning heavy at times. Another very warm night to come, temperatures for most remaining 16, 17 Celsius. So Monday we start to see the change in our weather as low pressure becomes more dominant. Bands of showers pushing north and eastward, some of these heavy and thundery at times. Longer spells of rain developing for parts of Scotland, northern England. Torrential downpours possible. Not everywhere will see these. Lots of places will still stay dry and sunny and still hot in the southeast. Temperatures here around 30 Celsius. See you soon.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed Heat Pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash. So make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watching news